Hey, it's me, Team Farrell, back from 3U Skill with a new update for the Audioworkstation for Cinema 4D. The Audioworkstation is now called Sound Studio because I want to implement a new plugin later at the end of the year or next year, so everything is then kept under this Sound Studio umbrella. But first I want to quickly explain the main features of the Audioworkstation. We can divide the plugin into 4 different key categories. First, we can import audio files much easier than in standard Cinema 4D. Second, we can edit sounds directly within the plugin. This means you can easily change the volume, panning, fading, you can cut sounds, and in the new version, even transpose or tune your audio files. Third, we have the rhythm section featuring a step sequencer. This allows you to compose real music patterns, rhythms, and beats entirely independent of the project's BPM. You can then freeze these rhythms into audio tracks as WAV files, which will be imported into your project, and you can use them to control sound effectors or sound fields. In the new version, there is also a keyframe generator included, which lets you generate keyframes directly from these patterns to control other objects via Espresso. And last but not least, we have the ability to export these music patterns as MIDI files. This allows us to easily load them into our preferred digital audio workstation like Cubase for professional post-processing, for instance. And by assigning different high-quality sounds, mixing and mastering your tracks externally, you can significantly elevate the final audio quality and create a much bigger impact on your clients or audience. The Audioworkstation has received a massive update with a lot of new features, and under the hood it was totally reprogrammed from scratch. I implemented a new module which allows me to work much easier with audio files than before. And yes, also the step sequencer has received a massive visual update and also functional update. But to see the Audioworkstation in action, let's head over to Cinema 4D. Okay, so let me first explain the installation of the plugin. So after you have purchased the plugin, you will receive an email with the download link. So if you have downloaded the plugin, you will end up here with a zip file. The zip file contains 2 folders. Unpack the zip file and then copy the folder which corresponds to your Cinema 4D version. So it's compatible from R23 up to 2026, the latest. Copy the folder which corresponds to your Cinema 4D folder, Cinema 4D version, into the preference folder of the of Cinema 4D. So it's available via the preferences here, open preference folder, and here you can find and copy and paste it into this plugins folder here. Do not copy it into program files or something like that, because the Audioworkstation has a preset system which needs to save preset files. You only have the permission in the preference folder or in your custom plugin folder. Please also uninstall all previous versions system-wide, so there may only exist only one plugin folder system-wide. Otherwise, you will get a exception or conflicts with the IDs or something like that. So since the plugin, the Audioworkstation, is a tag plugin, we can't find it under extension. We only can find it under the tags menu. So we need an object. So I recommend to use a null object to add the tag on it. So simply go to tags, extensions, Audioworkstations. Nothing fancy is happening in terms of GUI here. So we have this play bar that is pretty the same as it is here. And we have a button here to add a track. We simply add a track and automatically creates a cache folder. We can open this and he creates a cache folder here, incremental. So if we delete a track and there is no file anymore inside this cache folder, then it also deletes the cache folder. You can see the cache folder was deleted now. So we add a track. This is the global BPM parameter. I will come to this in a minute. Then we first have to load a sound. So I load here a bass drum. So also the sample library has massively increased here or enhanced. So I load in a bass drum sound. All these sounds are licensed under the CC 0, so Creative Commons 0, so no restrictions. Load in the bass drum. As you can see, it adds a track here. The bass drum is showing up. So it's also a very easy sound importer. And let's head over to the edit page here. So here we can directly edit the sound. We can determine when the sound should start. We can mute the sound. We can tune a sound. So we make it, this is new in this version. We can, so to say, pitch the sound. So make it higher or lower key. So you can see if we make it lower, also the sound end will increase here. If we pitch it higher, you can see also the trim end reduces because the sound is getting shorter. And yeah, we can pan the sound, we can change the volume, left, right panel. And every time you change here something in this edit page, you have to press freeze. Yeah, as you can see, I pan the sound. If I now play the sound, so it's now on the left channel here. And you can also fade it in. It's a millisecond value, or fade it out. So if you trim the sound, make it shorter, for instance, then sometimes it clicks here. So you can quickly fade it a little bit out to get rid of this click here. I bring all these values back to their default value here. Yeah. So now we head over to the rhythm section here, to the step sequencer. To calculate the rhythms, we have to activate the step sequencer. If the step sequencer is activated and I freeze it, you can see that it's create silence because there is no data in the step sequence at the moment. So we start the step sequencer. As you can see, it has received a massive redesign and also with new functionalities. So we go through these parameters step by step. And first of all, you can create here rhythms and patterns in a traditional music manner or something. So I have here the bass drum, and I create here quickly a pattern. And every time I change to something, I can freeze the track. If the animation is running, you can see the freeze track is disabled. Yeah, so this is to ensure maximum stability and so forth, because I had some crashes in tests and so forth. Here we have the beat count. So in the previous version, it was just possible to create one pattern, but to create real music, we need often a few variations. So we need more bars. So you can increase the bars up to 4. At the moment, 2 bars. And here's the bar switcher. We can switch to the next bar and create here a few variations like this. And the velocity is how loud a sound is played. So here I reduce a little bit the velocity, so it's played quieter. So you can see, I increase here and quickly play the sound. Yeah. The track switcher here, you can see here which track is actually selected in the step sequencer. At the moment, we have just one track. So I add another track, and you can see automatically the track is shown here in the step sequencer. So step sequencer works for all tracks here. It's the visual update for the track, so to say. I load here another sound. I load here a snare drum. And now I activate here step sequencer. And now I create also a pattern here. Also 2 bars. Like this. I freeze it. It's a really bad sound, so I and as you can see, when I deactivated the step sequencer, you can see all the tracks here in the attribute manager. This is a little bit confusing here. So, but as soon as you select the step sequencer here for a track, it will focus the track in the attribute manager. So you have directly access here to the parameters of the actual selected track here. And here's the track switcher. You can switch back to the bass drum pattern. So also the bass drum is now selected here. You have access to the parameters. And then you go to the next track here. And also if you want to see other tracks, you can press here show tracks. Then it shows all the tracks, or you can hide the tracks. The BPM value is just taking into account if this checkbox is checked here, override BPM. Then this BPM value overrides the global BPM. But by default, it is turned off. So every track is taking the BPM from this value here. It's also updating here. If you change the value here, it's updating here. If you change the value here, it's updating here. But this value has no impact as long as this parameter is turned off. So by default is turned off. Yeah. The same is for the solo track. This mutes all other tracks so that you only can hear the actual selected track. If you unsolo, then you can hear all tracks. The same goes for the mute button. The mute button mutes only the selected track. So you can create up to 4 bars, and that's it. So let's go to the bass drum. As you can see here, it created 2 bars. And here you have the loop section here. At the moment, just 1 loop. You can loop this sound. So you can make 2 loops, for instance, freeze it again, and he creates another loop of this 2 bars here, and so forth. You can crank this up. And the same goes for the snare drum. You can also loop it, freeze it again. And then we have, 2 bars. We have 2 loops. So there is a new feature, the transpose value here. So this is pretty cool because now it's also possible to create real melodies inside this with the Audioworkstation. So first for this, I need a tonal sound, like bass sound, for instance. I load a bass sound. Let's take this 12th sound here. I don't know how it sounds. I simply play the sound. It's a bad sound here. Let's take this one. Yeah, let's take this one. And let's create a pattern here. Create 2 bars. And another one. No, this was it. And the next one here. So the velocity as well. That's velocity. And now I go to -5. So I freeze it, make 2 loops here. Turn it on, sorry. 2 loops, freeze it. Let's reduce a little bit the volume. And the cool thing is, if you add another sound, for instance, let's add this chord here, for instance. and add the step sequencer and make here like this on the first note. You can see the sound is not in tune at the moment, so it has different tuning. And if you have a very complex pattern, you have to change the transpose value for each step here. So this is a little bit complicated. So that's the reason why you have this global tune parameter. So you can tune it now here stepwise, or also it's a float value here. So, but I want to tune it maybe one step higher. I freeze it. Let's sound it. So now it's in tune, I think. You get the idea what I mean. So if the sound is out of tune, then simply tune it here and then create your patterns. So these steps here, the transpose values are semitones. So each step is a semitone. So if you look at a piano, for instance, let's search for a piano. And as you can see here, 0 means it's a C note, and each step higher is a semitone. So it's a half tone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is an octave. Yeah. You can go up and downwards up to 24. Otherwise, it makes no sense. Yes. So this is transpose. So now real melodies are possible. And if you're happy maybe with this bass line, you can save it as a preset. So you can see here the preset thing here. You can say here save presets. I say here bassline, house, then 2 bars, and press OK. So you have saved it here. The reset tabs and reset velocity buttons are self-explaining. So it resets the tabs and the velocity. The B count is not will be not reset, and then you can simply load the bassline sound. So and say here load preset. It creates 2 bars again and reloads the. Then you have to freeze the pattern and so forth. And you can simply load another bassline. Let's freeze that. It's out of tune, or maybe this chord line here. I have to freeze. Let's tune the sound a little bit here. So now our chord is out of tune. You get the idea what I mean. That's how we create the patterns, the music pattern. And now the cool thing is you can now control with these patterns sound effectors or sound fields. And you can do this for each track here. So if you basically you load a sound into a sound effector and maybe a drum loop, and then you have to add different sound probes, and the probe for the snare drum also is influenced by the bass drum a little bit. So here you can divide the pattern into different stems and control each of them with a different sound effector. So let's do this. Let's add a sound effector for the bass drum. So I add a cube to my scene and put it into Cloner quickly, this cube setups. And yeah, now I want to get rid of this this value here. I clone it a little bit more like this. And now I select the cloner, I select a thing, I go to my bass drum. This step sequence is still selected. This is cool because then I'm focused here on my track here, and say here add sound effector. And now he adds a sound effect and instantly also adds the track into it and creates a standard probe and makes the frequency and sampling to step. So now if I play the bass drum now, so I can increase here the strength, of course. I can go into it and adjust a little bit the probe. Since it is a bass drum, is a yeah, let's delete this this last sound here. Let's delete this chord here. I don't like that. So okay. Okay, and the same goes for a sound field. If you add maybe a sound field, let's say you need anywhere a sound field, simply can also create a sound field with that. That's also possible. And the cool thing is, if you want to refresh this, controlled by the bass, for instance, then you select a sound effector. You can also multiple select sound effectors or sound fields, then select it and then simply say refresh. And now it's no longer controlled via the bass drum, it's now controlled via the bass. Can change a little bit the probe here. Yeah, and the same goes for the snare drum. Simply go ahead and say here snare drum like this, refresh it, then it's with But this is not only restricted to the sound fields and sound effectors. We also need often just to animate a single parameter or something. Therefore is the keyframe section here. So let's delete quickly this cloner object. Let's keep this cube. And I want to control the cube, the Y axis here. So I simply, first of all, I want to create a keyframes from the bass drum. I focus here on the bass drum. This is this one. And let's explain the parameters quickly. The KeySnap is, when it's turned on, it always snaps to a even number. If it's calculated 120.5, it snaps to 121 or something like that. This is the key snapping, so you ensure that it's always on an exact keyframe. This is not exactly the BPM sometimes, but for animation, sometimes it's better to snap it to an exact keyframe. Yeah, but you can choose that. You can switch which looks better for you or something. The release time is, it gradually fades out the value. If it hits the bass drum, it gradually fades out in by this keyframe value. So 3 means 3 frames. It fades out 3 frames to 0. And this end clip is it. So if it is longer than the loops, then it gradually fades out up to the end if this end clip is turned off. So this is end clip is good if you want to loop the animation maybe later. Then simply press end clip. And the release time has another feature. If it's set to 0, if you create then keyframes, then all the keyframes will be set to step interpolation. So I show you this quickly. No, I show you this with the. Let's go to the bass drum and make it a little bit complexer. So let's make here very silent sound here and make this a little bit silent. So I freeze this track here. Go to the bass drum and say create keyframes. As you can see, its release time is 0. It only creates keyframes where the tabs were clicked and the values are set to step. So as you can see here, so now we want to control the y-axis. So I press here, go to my null object. It has created controller as user data. I press here expression, set driver, go to my cube, say y-axis, expression, relative, go to my expresso, go to the range mapper. So set this low value to 0, higher was 100, and this thing goes here. Well, let's start here by 200. And yeah, so now, as you can see, so since it is in step value, since the release time is set to 0, it only changes if there is a different velocity here. So sometimes this is also pretty cool, but as soon as we add here release time, it is changed to linear interpolation, but only the release keyframe is set to step. So I make here 4 steps, and as you can see, it has now created keyframes, and then the animation looks like this. So this is also pretty, and the longer the animation, the slower the release. Also, and create keyframes. Yeah, so you got the idea how we can use this, create keyframes, and it's pretty cool. So you can also use it as a light switcher. For instance, if you add here a light, simply go to the Audioworkstation, select the bass drum track, for instance, and I simply create now keyframes with the release time and go to my null object. This is this controller. I say here expression, set driver, and go to my light and say here intensity, expression, set driver, absolute, because it's a percentage value. I can use the absolute value here. I turn on the light. It's a redshift light, an area light with a sphere, and it controls, so to say, the intensity. We can reduce a little bit the release time here. So, and what you can do, you can simply choose the keyframe, say here after, repeat 10 times or something. And we increase our animation value here. We can maybe also delete all the sounds. And then we have here a light pattern creator or something. And if you are happy with the pattern you created in the step sequencer, yes, you can easily export it as MIDI file. So as you can see, I click this export MIDI file, I open my cache folder, and it created here a MIDI file. And you can easily import it into your hot desired Audioworkstation as you saw it in the intro. So this was pretty everything for the Audioworkstation and the new Sound Studio for Cinema 4D. It has received a lot of new features and updates. Yeah, I hope you had fun, and we see us in the next video.